We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
23.
Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and welcome to the first movie review of the new year of 2019. And what a way to kick off things. So in today's video, I am going to be reviewing the newly released Beyonce documentary entitled Homecoming. Homecoming was written, directed, and produced by Beyonce. It's so funny at the very end of the movie when they show that title card, because it kind of reminds me of whenever people were like, yep, I wrote that, I directed it, I starred in it, I just did everything. But you know, she did do everything. But this movie was also co-directed by Ed Burke, who is one of Beyonce's longtime collaborators. He co-directed a lot of her other projects and concert films. So basically, if you did not know already, Homecoming is a concert film documentary that captures Beyonce's historic performance at Coachella back in 2018, and it gives us insight into her creative process as well as insight into her inspirations for the iconic performance. So as in all movie reviews on this channel, I'm going to be talking about the pros and then the cons and then giving my overall rating. So here we go. So my first pro to this movie is how culturally specific and authentic this movie, this performance was to Beyonce. And you can really see that in the way that this film was constructed. The movie literally opens with a black title card and you see a quote by Toni Morrison. And the use of just this black title card with a quote from various iconic African-American people is a narrative device that is used throughout the film. We also get a chance to hear from the voices of other African-American women such as Nina Simone, Toni Morrison, and of course, Maya Angelou. And what I really loved about the use of those particular audio snippets is that thematically speaking, a lot of those audio snippets were centered on the importance of being authentic to one's identity, to one's truth, and to one's now. Throughout the film, you also get a sense of where Beyonce got the inspiration for this Coachella performance, and she makes it very clear that she was drawing inspiration from HBCUs, HBCU culture, and the importance of homecoming within that community. When you see those various clips from those different campuses of those young kids performing in their bands, you visually and sonically get a sense of where Beyonce was drawing her inspiration from. And not only where, but also why. I did not know this, but Beyonce talks about how her father went to an HBCU back in her pre-Destiny's Child days when she was growing up. She did a lot of rehearsals at various HBCU sites. And then she also talks about how she personally wanted to go to an HBCU. Granted, that didn't happen, but despite not having that chance to go to an HBCU, she still always had a reverence and respect for that culture. And that is definitely, for me, one of the biggest takeaways from watching this movie is that culture, period, no matter what culture you're drawing from, is more than an aesthetic. Especially if you are someone who is outside of the culture, you have to understand that there's a rich and deep history and tradition and cultural legacy surrounding that culture. So it's important, especially if you are not of that culture, to respect that. And if you are part of that culture, there's power in honoring and owning and completely celebrating that aspect of your identity. Beyonce's astounding work ethic is on full display throughout the movie. If you didn't already get a sense, I am a huge Beyonce fan. Of all the people out right now, currently, of this era, of this time, Beyonce is my favorite. And one reason why I absolutely love Beyonce is because of her work ethic. No matter if you like her music or not, if you like watching her perform or not, that is something you cannot take away from her, is that she works so hard. You see how disciplined she is, you see how focused she is, and you see how dedicated she is to her craft of performing and singing and dancing and just putting on a freaking great show. There's a specific moment where she talks about the importance of rehearsal, which in my humble opinion, I feel like that is a lost art form, especially in today's artists, young artists. Beyonce talks about how important it is to rehearse and how it's okay to feel awkward in the process of rehearsal. That's what rehearsal is for, and that there is a humility in rehearsing. Remember in Get Me Bodied when she's like, a little sweat ain't never hurt nobody? Beyonce's been preaching this for the longest time, and she's someone who is not afraid to work hard, especially when you compare her Coachella performance to all the other performances. This is why her performances are always so tight. My third pro to this movie is just seeing how in control Beyonce is of her career. She is fully in control of her image and her message, and not just in control of her image and message, but she is so in control of how her image is presented to the world and how her message is relayed to the world. One of my favorite quotes in this movie is when Beyonce says, "Until I see some of my notes applied, it doesn't make any sense for me to give more." This, for me, was such a throwback moment to when Beyonce was taking notes for her MTV VMA performance for Ring the Alarm, and she got really mad that they were putting blue lights on a black girl.
And I hate all that ugly blue light. I'm a black girl. You can't put blue lights on black girls. I can't trust them. They don't know what they're doing.
And it also gives me flashback moments to In Life is But a Dream, when, again, no one was taking her notes.
But the way y'all are lighting it, it doesn't matter, because you can't tell what the set is doing because it's red and purple light.
No, I don't know.
The side should be white.
All white.
Yeah,
So we'll go all white.
Yeah, we've got guys to do it tonight. So.
Okay. I mean, I said that yesterday.
Right.
With all of that being said, she is someone who is very involved with every aspect of her performance. She talks about how she chose every single dancer. She chose the material on the stage. She chose the height and shape of the pyramid. I wouldn't put it past Beyonce. She probably chose the weather of that day, chose specifically what type of clouds were gonna be in the sky prior to her performance. I would not put it past her. She's just so in control of her show, and that's admirable, especially when you consider the history of pop musicians, pop stars, especially female pop musicians and pop stars. It's kind of like a stereotype that, oh, they're just a product and they don't necessarily have a hand in their career or creative image whatsoever, but Beyonce defies that stereotype. Alright, my fourth pro to this movie is that it successfully captures the energy of the crowd. I've seen a lot of concert films in my day, ranging from people out now to people back then. And one of the most thrilling aspects of watching any concert film, period, is just seeing the reaction of the audience to the performer. And the coverage of the crowd was great. We got a lot of wide shots to get a sense of just how big this audience was at Coachella. There were a lot of great close-up moments to see the initial reaction shots of people to Beyonce. Obviously, the iconic first reaction of this girl in the very front when Beyonce just comes out and she's just standing there and she has not done anything. That will forever be iconic. I also appreciate kind of just the historic aspect of capturing the crowd as well. A lot of people, they give this generation, this era of going to see a show shit because, oh, everyone's on their phones and blah 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 blah. And you know what, whether you like it or not, that's what it's like to see a concert, especially a concert at Coachella in 2019. Everyone just has their phones. That's how it is. And I'd imagine 10-15 years from now, when we all look back on Beyonce's Coachella performance and we see audiences with their phones, we're gonna be yeah, that's an accurate depiction of what it's like to go see a concert in 2019. My fifth pro to this movie is that it's just well shot and edited. In general, the coverage of Beyonce, the coverage of the stage, the coverage of all the dancers and the band members was just so great. They really studied their shots. They knew exactly where the camera had to be in order to give us the best shot at any moment. Additionally, there's a wide variety of shots, which makes for watching this concert film very dynamic. On the editing side, editing was very dynamic as well. There's moments throughout the documentary where Beyonce will switch to a sort of historic, old school, vintagey type sort of filter, which for me gives off just this vibe of, yes, we are capturing history. There's also a moment in the movie where there's a very quick editing montage that's played over jazz music. You see quick clips of Beyonce working and rehearsing for the performance, and like other people rehearsing and working for the performance. And that's also interspersed with clips of Beyonce and her family. And because the editing during that specific montage is so like quick, and you hear like the jazz music, it just kind of adds this like chaotic and frenzied feeling that Beyonce was probably going through during that time, because she talks about in the documentary the struggle of balancing work life as well as balancing being a mom, especially being a new mom again to twins. And I feel like just the way that that whole montage was edited just really highlights the chaotic balance that Beyonce was going through. My 6th pro to this movie is I love that Beyonce took the time to acknowledge the community that helped her put on this performance. Towards the end of the movie, there is another sort of quick montage of individual black and white portraits of the dancers and band members and crew members that helped put this show together. As someone who watched the performance as it was happening, I was just as amazed by Beyonce as I was by the band, as I was by the dancers, as I was by all the craftspeople who helped construct that pyramid, of all the wardrobe and the costumes. I was just as amazed by her team as I was by her. And they're as important to this performance as Beyonce was to this performance. I just love that Beyonce in this movie throughout gave credit to where it was due, and she shared her light and she let those people shine. All right, now moving to the cons. So before I begin, Beehive. Most of the cons on this list, there's not that many, they're all fun and games, okay? Calm down, okay? Calm down. So my first con for me is I personally wish that we had more behind the scenes footage. As someone who considers themselves to be a huge Beyonce fan, and considering that this is really the first time we have heard from Beyonce in a long while, the first time she has taken us in like this and given us insight into her creative process, I wish we got more. When the movie starts, they kind of set the scene that we're at Coachella, and then you see the performance happening. And like about 5 minutes in, I was like, is this just going to be the performance? And then about 10 minutes in, I was like, oh wait, maybe this is just the performance. Maybe she's not gonna show us any behind the scenes footage, because like my personal expectation, especially based on the trailer, was that we were gonna see how this came to be, all the behind the scenes footage. And 10 minutes in, we still hadn't seen anything. It was just the performance. And I was thinking like, oh my God, did she just put this out in HD with better sound quality and more camera coverage just for Netflix? And we're not gonna, like, I don't know, like I was starting to lose a little hope. But then after like, I think in the 16-minute mark is the first time she cuts to rehearsal footage of some sort. Granted, we get, I believe, like 4 or 5 different breaks of this is me rehearsing, this is how this came to be. I just wish there would have been more of that. And I know it's kind of like, it's hard to balance, because then it's like, well, then you would have not been able to get the full Coachella performance because the movie's already like 2 hours long. But I'm a huge Beyonce fan. I'm obsessed with learning about people's creative processes and how things that I love came to be, and I wish we had more of that. Like, I would have loved to have seen more footage of Beyonce with her musical director constructing the set list and constructing the sound for this performance. I would have loved to have seen Beyonce in a meeting like with her creative heads, and I know we did see like little glimpses of that, but I would have loved to actually like hear her head choreographers, Chris Grant and Jaquil Knight, chime in a bit, or hear her head wardrobe lady, Marnie, chime in a bit. Hear maybe from Ed Burke of, okay, like this is how we're gonna do this. Like I just wanted more insight into her creative process. And I feel like, why didn't we see like a little bit of Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle rehearsing for the Destiny's Child segment in the performance? Like 2 seconds of that, like the 3 of them dancing in front of a mirror would have like been enough for me. Like, oh, I just wanted more on that front. My second con to this movie, and this is like so petty, but the voice distortion during her interview segments. I get that this was an aesthetic choice. I understand perhaps doing it a couple of times, but every single time she did the interview portion, she always had that filter over her voice. And I'm not gonna lie, like after maybe the 3rd or 4th time of doing that, Beehive again, don't drag me, I felt like it was a bit pretentious. Yeah, I just felt like it was a bit pretentious, and I found myself like kind of giving her little side eye, like really, like why do you keep doing this? But just personal opinion, okay? Personal opinion. My third con to this movie is Jay-Z's lack of appreciation for Beyonce fitting into her costume again. Jay, you could have at least given us a yes or something, like, I don't know, like a laugh. She FaceTimed you in the middle of her day to show that she was able to fit into her costume. She hasn't been eating fish, meat, what else? Sugar, dairy, carbs, bread. And she was finally able to fit into her costume after just giving birth to twins. And all you can do is just, what? Come on, Jay. As a fun aside, I'd like to say that I immediately recognized that costume because I saw Beyonce for her Formation World Tour. I was in the very front, so I will share that little clip.
Smack that truth, that's what they need.
You know, just be jealous. That was a little bit of a humble brag there. All right, so my overall rating for this movie is a solid A-. While I wish she definitely gave us more behind the scenes footage, considering this is the first time in a long time since she's let us in like this, I still was thoroughly entertained, moved, and inspired by this film. This movie captures one of the most influential artists of our time, there's no denying that is a fact, in her prime, doing what she does best, all the while inspiring us to be better and reach higher. Early on in the documentary, Beyonce says, quote, "When I decided to do Coachella, instead of me pulling out my flower crown, it was more important that I brought our culture to Coachella." She fully understands the power in this moment as the first African-American woman to headline Coachella, and she seizes that moment unabashedly, standing fully in her blackness and her womanhood for all the world to see and admire and be inspired by. As someone who has truly grown up with Beyonce. I remember being 6 years old watching the Say My Name music video on Disney Channel for the longest time. Because of that video, I associated Beyonce with the color orange. I remember being in middle school and before I would go to school watching the Irreplaceable music video back when MTV actually used to play music videos and like low-key wanting that jacket. I remember being in high school when everybody was obsessed with single ladies. I remember being in college when I first became like a huge Beyonce fan after 4 came out, and just cruising along in the car with my friends and going to my first Beyonce concert. I remember when Lemonade came out when I was a senior in college and being so excited to see her on tour just 2 weeks before I was about to graduate.
You know you that bitch when you cause all this conversation. Always stay gracious, best revenge is your paper.
For me, it has been such an honor watching this woman's career evolve throughout the past 20 or so years, and she just inspires me to be better and to do better. And I know that's so cheesy, but it's so true. You know, when you like admire celebrities or like people in general, there's moments when you're like, gosh, I wish I was her. There's never a moment when I wish I was Beyonce, like seriously, because that's a lot of responsibility. But instead, what she inspires me to be is to just be a better version of myself and to just like work really hard and to be dedicated in whatever I choose to do, and to just be true to myself, and that there's power in embracing all aspects of your identity. And for anyone to just have that sort of power to move anybody like that is just, it's just amazing. So yeah, she's amazing, she's iconic, she's a legend, and you cannot deny her legend status. That pretty much wraps up my review of Beyonce's Homecoming. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and please turn on the notification button down below so you know when a new video from me comes out. And comment down below, what is your favorite moment in her Beychella set? For me, my favorite non-Beyonce moment is the Bugaboos. I also love the live rendition of Party. My favorite Beyonce moment is, oh gosh, it's so hard to choose, but right now I'm just really really loving when she does You Don't Love Me, parentheses, no, no, no. She performed that song during her I Am era, at least like in Brazil. I know she did that. And just to see her put that back into her set list and have the band say like the people in the background, it's just like, it gave me life. I also really loved just the Destiny's Child reunion. It just brought all the nostalgia feels to me. Let me know, what are your favorite non-Beyonce moments and Beyonce moments in her Beychella set list? Yeah, and that's pretty much it. As always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all my humble opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
You're the one that I love! Baby, you're the one that I need!